Okay, thanks for waiting, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started here. Thanks for joining me today. My name is Chris Painter, and I am one of the senior technical sales engineers here at Symetrix. And today I am excited to talk about our control server product. We're basically going to talk about the control server in general, basically everything that you can do with it. Here's a picture of it. The control server is a half rack space unit. It basically is a web services platform for AV control. It's programmed using our Composer software. It has built-in wireless and wired connectivity as well. It's a browser-based admin tool and control. It works with computers, tablets, phones, and all of that. Basically, any device with a web browser would be compatible with Control Server. It has its own built-in Wi-Fi access, which can make it a secure AV control island. Picture of the back here. There's not a lot going on, but we'll talk about it really quick. We've got a gigabit Ethernet port on board. Of course, that's the power outlet. 2 USB connections, which aren't used for a lot. Basically, those exist if you ever need to collect logging information from the control server. And if you get to that point, you're probably going to do that after discussing with us. So we'll instruct you how to do that if you ever get to that point. And then people always ask about this little audio connector. We're not using that, so that's an unused port. It's just sort of built in to the motherboard that we're using for this, so it's got to stick out of the back. But it has a built-in Intel chipset, 64-bit. You can have as many as 80 units in a site file, same limitations as other types of devices in Composer software. And it can utilize up to 1,000 presets. Other than that, just a couple pieces of info about the wireless or Wi-Fi technology. It's a dual band, 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz router. It's got, can use up to 50 users. It uses 40-bit encryption as well. There's just a few specs I'll throw out there about it. Don't want to get too nerdy on it. If you do want to see a lot of the other, deeper specifications, you can certainly look at the spec sheet on that or in the help files in Composer software. Okay, so without further ado, let's get right into Composer software. Don't want to spend too much time on the PowerPoint. Okay, so here's Composer software. I just sort of have a site file I've sort of thrown together here with a few things. I've got my Radius MX over there at my desk, and I've got a control server here already located in my site file. So the first thing I want to show you is basically how we can configure the control server. Now, of course, you drag this into the site file, just like any other device in Composer software. You can see that it lives in the toolkit here. You can just drag that out. So I've got one placed here and located. Now, if I right-click on it, I can go to the unit properties. And there's a lot of similarities here, just like other units that exist in Composer software. A lot of things are you'll notice to be the same here. IP address is going to show up here. You can manually enter this. You can also set a static IP from here as well. And then right here is one important thing I wanted to point out where we can enable the event server in this unit. So if you're going to use the web-based event scheduler in the control server, this does have to be selected here. And you'll see what that looks like. That basically puts this little calendar icon there on the control server. So we know the control server is the event scheduler for all of the devices in this Composer site file, as opposed to if I was to do this for my Radius NX. You can see that that little calendar icon moves over here. And so now the Radius NX would be my event scheduler. And so you would do that if you weren't using the web-based event scheduler on the control server, and if you are, using the normal event scheduler in Composer software. Okay, so let's go back over there. We'll enable that. You can configure the remote control ports. This is similar to all the other DSPs in the site file. We're just going to leave it at its default settings for now. Managing applications. So this is how we can create and configure the control server mixer apps. Now, SimView is separate. SimView, or if you make custom control screens using SimView, there's a different process that we go through to export those control screens to SimView, and that's similar to if you were doing that for SimView for PC or for T5. So control server, that process is all the same. We're going to get there. But for configuring the mixer apps, we do that here. So I already have a 32 channel mixer app configured, but for the sake of showing you how to do this, I'm going to add an app, and there's not really any selections here. There's only one app type, and that's the mixer. If I had multiple control servers, I could select that up here, but I'll click OK. And so that adds a new app here. So then I can edit the app right here. And we already have a 32 channel configured. So what I was going to do is make an 8 channel version. Now to configure the individual channels, you'll see that by default, it always comes up with the first 4 channels enabled. And I've got 32 here to select from. Now, what I want to do, because I want to make an 8 channel mixer, I want to basically enable these other channels. So I would click on this next channel and click enable. Now you might be thinking, wow, you might have to do that for all 32 channels if I wanted 32. You actually don't. I can go over here and click on channel 8 and enable that. And that will enable every channel before channel 8. So I would do the same thing for a 32 channel. I would scroll all the way down to channel 32 and enable, and that would enable all 32 channels at the same time. Presets, if you want to utilize presets in the Mixer app, you do have to enable those as well. So I'll go here and I'll enable a couple of these, just so we have them for later. Okay, so I've enabled 4 preset locations, and I've got 8 channels of my mixer ready to be assigned. That's pretty much all I've got to do there. So I'll click save. Okay, so now I've got my 32 channel and 8 channel mixer apps here. Of course, if I wanted to remove one, I can click here and remove the app. Okay, so we'll close that. I can click configure control server, and that would launch right into my web interface. I can reset my administrator account. So if that's something that you can do from Composer software. If you can't get into the admin account because the password has been changed and you don't know what it is or don't remember what it is, you can reset that to the default password, which is admin with a capital A and password with a capital P. Similar to a lot of other things that we use by default in Composer. Okay, so that is that. For the properties, I'll click OK here. Oh, it's asking me if I want to turn on the event server in other units. Yes. So it turned it off in the radius NX and it added that in my control server. So now I got my calendar icon. Okay, so that's all done. Now what I want to do is I want to assign my channels to that. Now I mentioned I had already assigned all 32 channels of my 32 channel mixer there, but I wanted to do that for my 8 channel. And I'm going to show you the whole process just to make it easy. Okay, so here's my 8 channel mixer. Okay, so what we want to do is basically just start assigning these faders and mute buttons to the mixer. And this process is the same process that we use for lots of other things like Arc wall panels and Arc Web and the W series remotes. You're basically going to right click on an item and I'm going to choose set up to remote control. And then in my setup to remote control window, what I'm looking for is my control server mixer app. So that is going to be this guy, number 1-2. Yeah. So I click on the app that I'm assigning that to, so it's selected. And then by default, it starts at fader number 1. And then I wanted to start with controller number 1 in this case. And I click OK. So now I've assigned this fader, and so now I can basically go through the process really quickly to assign the rest of these. I'll right click on the mute button, set up to remote control, and then you'll notice that from now on, it's defaulting to the last app I selected. It's defaulting to the next parameter down the list. It's defaulting to the next controller number. So I don't really have to do anything. I just click OK. Okay, so now I've got the first fader and mute button assigned, and I just got to do these other 7 channels really quick. And so part of the point of showing you this is just how fast actually it is. It's really not too big of a deal to go through one at a time and do channel 3 and then channel 4. And you can see this just takes a few seconds. And so if you were assigning these to the 32 channel mixer, that might take you a minute or 2 just to go down the line. But now all 8 faders and mute buttons are assigned. I can see in the remote control manager that I've got 2 control servers. I've got 2 apps, 32 channel and an 8 channel, and those have all been assigned. I've got 4 presets enabled. So that's what that looks like. And I can see the controller numbers that I just assigned here, 1 through 16. Okay, so that's done. So really the next process to make this available would be to push our composer site file. But before I do, I just want to talk about a couple other things before we get into the web admin of the control server. So presets. I had made a couple presets here. Presets 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This is just basically to mute and unmute some channels and move some faders up and down. Not really anything. Really, I just wanted to create some presets so we had some to use later in the demo. And so that's been already done. You can see here I've got a few presets created in my presets manager. And I suppose it's worth showing you how to do a preset. That's not really part of this demo, but I could right click on any item. Of course, after you've moved the parameter where you want to save it, you right click and you can store that into a preset. We've got up to 1,000 preset locations. Okay. Okay, so one other thing is SimView. So I've actually got a little SimView control screen that I threw together really quick because this is all part of the control server. So what I'm going to do is I would need to export this to SimView. Now, I'm not going to show you how to build control screens. I'm not going to go into that too far. Actually, Nick Danielson, one of my counterparts here in technical support, just did a really great webinar just this week on creating control screens, where he goes through all the tips and tricks of using custom symbols and fonts and all that stuff. So for that information, go watch that webinar. But just for the sake of showing you the process, I was going to export this to SimView. So I'm going to right click and export to SimView, or I could also go to from my control screen manager, control server webinar, and I can export to SimView. Same thing. So I'm going to choose my control server here. I'll say next. And basically you just step through this process. If you wanted a pin code security, you could enable that. That's actually a new feature we added in Composer 8.0. And then you're going to hit next and typical. And then right here, any unused controller numbers I'll choose 501 to start. And then we'll choose to launch the control server web page after we push. Okay, so I'm going to finish. And so this is doing a couple things right now. This is exporting the control screen to my control server. This is pushing my site file. And it's assigning any unused controller numbers that haven't been assigned yet. Okay. So I'll say done. And now we're online. Okay, so that should all be ready to go now on the control server side of things. Let's go ahead and log in here. Okay, so to start with, I'm going to log in as the admin. And the password was password. Okay, so the first thing we see when we log into the control server is our status page. This is telling us basically all the system information, the name of the control server, the site ID, the firmware version here, and the unit serial number as well. And then network information. This is telling me my IP subnet and gateway, my MAC address of my Ethernet network. Currently, my wireless functionality is disabled, but I'm going to show you that here in just a second. And then down at the bottom, it's showing us our license information, saying that we have an event scheduler 1 license configured. We've got up to 5 Mixer apps and 5 SimView apps. And then it gives me the individual names of those files that have been loaded, which ones are configured and which ones are licensed instances. Okay, and we're going to talk more about that here coming right up. So let's go up here to the menu. And just because it's at the top, I'm going to show you the help options. So you do have some help options built right into the web interface here. I can choose license installation, and this is telling me how to install a license. We've also got licensing assignment, how you would assign a license. And so these are here basically for the end user or whoever for quick info here. Okay, going down to the next option, management. So we've got quite a few options here in the management section. First of all, we do have various resets. So I can actually reset the admin account from here. I can reset all the user accounts from here. I can reset the networking settings from here, or reset the programming, or an actual factory reset from here. So multiple different kinds of resets. I won't actually perform any of these right now because then we'll have to wait for it and reprogram it. And then applications. So let's go to the applications section, talk about that. All right, so for applications, we have 3 different kinds of applications. We've got the event scheduler, we have the mixer apps, and we have SimView. Now, again, by default, any control server out of the box is going to come with 1 event scheduler license. That should be all you ever need, and then 5 mixer licenses and 5 SimView licenses. If I click on the event scheduler, I can see I have an event scheduler here. So this would show up as an available configuration. And again, just to back up a little bit, that wouldn't be an available configuration unless I assigned my control server to be the event scheduler here, remember, with this little calendar icon. So we did that to make it available. So anyways, I want to make this an available configuration and bring that down to licensed configurations. That makes it available for users to use. Okay, so I would hit save, nothing's changed. So then we'll go to the mixer apps, and I've got 2 of my mixers here, the 8-channel and 32-channel, and I want both of those to be available as well. And then SimView. Here's all the SimView exports that have been exported to this control server. I've got 4 of them. Only one of them is actually going to work with this site file, but I've got 4 that are loaded to this. And so that is that. Now, if I wanted to add additional licenses, I'm going to do that here. Now, the way this works, if you do need additional licenses, is you're going to email or call our sales department, and you're going to say, hey, I need to buy additional licenses. They're going to sell them to you, and then they'll forward that to support, and they'll give us the sales order number and everything like that. And then we will email you directly with this very, very long license key that you would basically copy and paste into this field. Click OK, and then you would have more licenses available. So it's as simple as that. Okay, so that is the apps. And now let's talk about users. So I have some users already created here. I'm Chris, so let's go in here to the Chris user. And I can see I got my username. I've got a password. Now, a little trick I like to tell people about, well, at least for doing this demo, I think it's easier to leave the password field blank. But you can't actually just simply leave it blank. You do have to, there's actually like a special code that we use, and that is exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point, empty. And that's how you make it so you don't have to enter a password. And you could do that for the admin too as well. Auto logout time in minutes. Now this works the same way. The available configurations are anything that we've licensed, and we just want to basically move them down to what configurations this user is going to be allowed to use. So I've got all these down here. I've got my 2 mixer apps, the 8-channel and 32-channel, and the control server webinar, October 2020. That's the one that we just exported. So that's that. Now, if I wanted to add a user, you can see I can click on any of these users, and I can give them access to any of these apps. I'll click add user here, and so then I would be starting from scratch here. So let's say my name's going to be Alwyn, and then we'll make it so he doesn't have to have a password. And then how many minutes before logout. Now, most of the time, I always set this to 99 here at Symetrix just for testing and stuff like that. But, you know, most of the time you're going to do something more like 5 minutes or something realistic out in the world. Okay, so actually, let's click on Alwyn again. I forgot to actually give him any of these apps. Okay, so we have assigned some of the apps to some users that we can see. What else do we got in here? Oh, files. Let's go to the files section. So this is where you're going to upload any custom fonts that you're using. So if you do use any custom font that's not a built-in, default font on a control screen, you do have to actually upload that font here into the control server so it's available to use. So if you ever notice that you use a font and you export it to control server and everything looks great except for that font you used won't show up at all, it's invisible, it's probably because you need to load that font onto the control server. And this is where you do that. Okay. And then here is all my SimView exports that have been exported to this control server. Okay, next thing is networking stuff. So let's go over here and let's have a look at what we have here. So we've got Ethernet settings and wireless settings. So we'll click on Ethernet first. So I have this set to DHCP mode for now, and it's gotten an IP automatically just on our network. Super simple. That's definitely the simple way to do it. But of course, you can assign a static IP, and you can do that here, IP, subnet, and gateway. I'll leave mine on DHCP for the moment. And that is that. Very simple. We'll go to the wireless section. Now, currently I have the wireless functionality of this control server disabled, but we have two different modes that we can do here. We've got AP mode and client mode. Okay, so now for AP mode, this would be used, I can hit quick config, and this kind of gives me an automatic subnet base here to use. Country and channel you can select. You can create your own SSID. And this is what it would come up as when you're looking for it over Wi-Fi. And of course, a passcode you can do as well. Now, if you do client mode is used when you want to use the control server as an extension of a larger network, meaning there's already an existing network with lots of other routers around the building, and you want the control server to just be another access point for the network, meaning that you could connect to any other router in the building. I can click scan for network, and hopefully this doesn't take too long, but this will scan for networks in the building. I found our main Symetrix network here, and then I would need to know the passcode to get onto that network, but that's all you have to do to add the control server as another router onto your existing network. Pretty simple there. Okay. So anyways, I'll leave it disabled for the moment. So now what else do we have? Network. Oh, updating, right? If you need to do a firmware update, this is where we're going to do that. You would choose the file here. And this looks like it's already defaulted to the correct folder on my computer. But one common question that we get sometimes, depending on how your folders are set up on your computer, it might not default to this folder. So just in case, that's going to be your C drive, program files x86. Then you go down to the Symetrix folder and Composer 8.0, and the upgrade folder. And this is basically the firmware components for all of our products. And we're going to look for the control server, and I'll pick the most newest, coolest, most recent firmware version here, and I'll click open. And so now that's ready to upload to the control server. So that is as simple as that. Now it does take a few minutes for the control server to upgrade, and then it's got to reboot. So I'm not actually going to do that right now, because then we'll have to wait for it. Okay. Well, that's basically all of the management stuff here that we've talked about. I can also reboot my control server from here if I wanted to. So let's log out at this point. And now let's log in as a user. Let's log in as the user that I just created. Alwyn, no password needed. All right. So here are the four configurations that Alwyn has access to, that we gave him access to. So here is our 8-channel mixer that we created together here. So you got our faders here. Also, you've got the individual up-down bump buttons that you can use, which I think is pretty handy to have. You can click in a field here, and you can create custom labels. You can mute and unmute channels. We can also do a couple things here. We'll go over here. We had 4 presets available to trigger. Let's see if I actually recall some of these presets. You can see that's just muting and unmuting some of these channels. Okay, and then grouping. We can do grouping here. So let's make a new group, and I'll show you what that means. You can choose a custom color down here, and then I can choose what channels I want to be in a group. So let's say I want channels 1 and 2 to be in a group. I can select those. I can call this like iPod or whatever. Click OK. And now these 2 channels are grouped together. Oops. So because I had one muted and one unmuted, now they're toggling, but you can see how that basically links the channels together. Let me show you on another group. One thing that's very cool is, say you have a mix of channels here that you've created, where these faders are not all created equal. You've got, this channel is higher, this channel is lower. Now, if I go in here to make a group, one thing I think that's pretty cool is it actually holds the relationship, or it keeps the mix between the channels the same. So that kind of works a lot like a DCA on a digital mixer. So I think that's a pretty cool thing to do. All right, let's look at preferences. So now I can edit channels. I could click on this channel. I can give it custom colors. I can change the scribble strip from here. I can also change the nudge increment. By default, it's 3 dB, but I can change that to 1 or 5 or whatever you want. Oops. Go over here and do this one. Okay, and then once I'm done, I change this to 5 dB per step now. Okay, so that's how that works. Display options. We do have a couple of other display options for the layout mode, and this sort of depends on the screen size. Most of the time you want to keep this on auto, but there's some other options here that you can do. It actually helps if I make this go not full screen. Display options, tall. So again, this really kind of depends on the screen that you're using it on. Again, I usually recommend leaving that on auto. You can see here that should pretty much scale automatically to whatever your screen size is. Okay, let's actually go to home. And let's look at, let's have a look at the 32 channel version here. So you can see depending on how big your screen is, this automatically scales the faders. All right, so depending on the screen size, that's what that's gonna look like. Okay, so this is actually, might be a better example. If I go to display options and do tall. No, okay. Guess that was a bad example too. Let's look at wide. Oh, right. Okay, so now with it in wide mode, now we can scroll like this, which is a pretty handy way to do it. Some people prefer it like this on an iPad or a tablet, and some people prefer it the other way. I'll put this back to auto. Okay. So let's go back to home. All right, now I exported a SimView control screen here as well. And so that's what this looks like on the control server. We can trigger some presets up here, and we can move volumes up and down here. And so that is that. And then finally, let's talk about the event scheduler. Okay, so again, the web-based event scheduler, this is basically allowing us to schedule presets by time and day. It provides a way to basically automate routing or source selection or volume changes for special events or holidays or any predetermined configuration changes that need to happen at a certain time and date. So you do have to first store presets. So presets are available here, and we have already done that. And so by default, it opens to this month view. We can also look at this by week or by individual day. Regardless of which mode you're in, you've also got the forward and back buttons. So I can hit forward by one day. I can click the today button to go today. If I'm on week view, I can go to the next week by hitting the up and down buttons here, or go to today. And if I'm in the month view, again, that works the same. I can hit the next month. Okay, so that's how you basically navigate through here. One thing I think that is actually a good thing to talk about first is the setting the clock. Because we're scheduling presets to be triggered at a certain time, of course, the time needs to be right. So you can actually set the date and time here, or you can just hit sync with this device. And this is going to sync the control server's time to your PC's time. So that's all you got to really do there. Click OK. So now we know the time is right. So if we trigger a preset, it's going to happen at the time we tell it to. Okay. So now we can make a new event by clicking new event in the menu. That's one way to do that. We can also just click right on a day, and that brings up the same new event dialog. So we can choose a preset that we want to trigger. We can name it what we want. We can give it a custom label. Now these labels are editable as well, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. And then we can choose a specific time and AM, PM, and then we can choose if this is a single event or a recurring event. So for the moment, let's just say a single event, and I'm going to click OK. So we can see now it added this event right here. I can click on it to bring that back up. And so we have an event there. Let's make another event. This time, we're going to do a different time. And this time we'll do a recurring event and show you what this looks like. So now, when I do a recurring event, you've got your weekdays here, and I can choose what days I want this event to recur. So for this example, let's choose Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and I'll click OK. All right, now you can see that just added an event here, Monday through Friday, for that same time every day. I can go to the next month here, and that's basically going to keep going till the end of time. Let's make another event, and we'll just choose another random label. And let's do another recurring event. This time, what I'm going to do is show you the whitelist and or blacklist. So let's do this again where we've got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I'm actually going to use the whitelist. And now I can choose what days I actually want to be part of my recurring event. So again, I chose a recurring event Monday through Friday, but now I'm using the whitelist to actually choose what days within that Monday through Friday I actually want. So like say I just wanted every day, Monday through Friday, except Wednesday the 2nd and except Wednesday or Thursday the 10th. You know what I mean? You can basically choose whitelist, and when I'm all done, I've got this blinking red button up here at the top right. I click that, and then this gives me a list of whitelisted days. So now when I click OK, you can see that it added that recurring event every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, except for these 3 days here that I selected. Okay, so let's do another one. This time we'll do recurring, and we'll choose blacklist. So this kind of works, I guess you could say, the opposite. This time I'll choose every Wednesday, every Monday, Wednesday. Okay, we'll do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Except maybe I want just this one random Tuesday and Thursday in there. Okay, so here's what I've selected for that. I will click OK. And if I click blacklist, I can see the list. So then I click OK. Oh, This is telling my name needs to be longer than 4 characters. Oops. What did I do wrong there? Let's try that again. Okay, let's do all on. We'll do that preset. We'll choose a label, recurring blacklist. Oh, I know the problem. What I didn't do is actually choose any days. Okay, so I blacklisted Wednesdays. I chose Monday through Friday as my recurring event. Okay, so now I created a recurring event, except the days that I blacklisted, which was Wednesdays. Okay, so you can see how that works. So now that I've got some events in here, you can see if you go to the week view, this is what that looks like, or the individual day view, that's what that looks like. And of course, any of these you can click on to edit. Each event, you can actually add notes as well if you need notes in there. You can also delete individual events. So I clicked delete. This is asking me if I want to delete just this occurrence or the entire event. So I'll delete just this occurrence. Okay, so you kind of get the idea how all that works. In a nutshell, that is the event, the web-based event scheduler. I'm going to hang out for a little bit here, see if there's any questions that pop up on the control server in general. In the meantime, I'm going to log in as a different user. Oh, here's an example. I had added panel security for this screen, so I have to enter a password to get to this screen. So that's what that looks like. Yeah, I know DDM is Dante Domain Manager. Dante Domain Manager doesn't really have much to do with the control server. The control server is providing web interface control of our Symetrix DSP. So the control server itself doesn't really do Dante. It's a control device. Okay, well, I don't really see any other questions coming in, so I think I will go ahead and end the webinar. I really appreciate everybody joining me for this today. And if any other questions come up at all, you can absolutely give us a call. Okay, so if any other questions come up, don't hesitate to call us or contact us via phone or email. And maybe give us a few days, and this webinar will be posted on our YouTube channel eventually. And I really appreciate it. Okay, everybody, have a great rest of your day.